Hi guys, this is Zane and Matthew presenting on electric vehicles. Just a little introduction about our topic and the presentation. So we will be presenting on EVs and electric vehicles, what exactly they are, what they entail, the historical background behind EVs, where we stand currently, and what the future holds. Our presentation will also delve into different car companies. We will be discussing in detail and in depth about all the different car companies like Tesla, BMW, Audi, and all the major predominant car automotive brands that offer electric vehicles. And ultimately, we will be talking about whether electric vehicles are environmentally friendly and conducive to drive or not. So we're going to be talking a little bit about the history of the electric vehicle and where exactly it came from. So altogether, it's hard to pinpoint the creation of the electric car and pin it down to one inventor or one country. Instead, it was a series of different breakthroughs that took place in the late 1800s, from the battery to the production of the electric motor, that led to the creation of the first electric vehicle on the road. However, we can talk a little bit about, and we can trace back the inception of the electric car in the recent past to the production of the Toyota Prius that was produced, manufactured en masse in the early 2000s. And since then, obviously, rising gasoline prices and growing concern about carbon pollution and the environmental impact of driving gasoline vehicles have contributed towards making the Prius the best-selling hybrid worldwide vehicle. And yeah, that has been reflected in numbers. The stats speak for themselves, and Prius is by far the most selling hybrid vehicle worldwide. So presently, obviously, due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the damage it wreaked, the havoc it wreaked, overall cars registrations and sales have obviously plummeted and took a huge landslide as a result of the pandemic, and electric vehicles were no exception to that. However, 2021 and onwards, um, this whole year has been a game changer actually for EV sales, and it is expected that 6.4 million vehicles combined, PHEVs and EVs combined, will be sold globally by the end of the year. Another encouraging sign is just how fast EV car sales are growing not only in Europe but the States and altogether worldwide. Additionally, we can also talk about car companies like Tesla that focus solely on hybrid EV electric car productions. There's self-driving vehicles, just the amount of research and development that's taking place in Tesla alone. And we can also notice a trend in other car companies like BMW, Audi, Porsche that are following suit and releasing their own versions of electric cars. So projections claim that by 2030, 90% of the vehicles on road are going to be electric cars, and we are definitely headed in that trend.
As Sultan has mentioned, the future belongs to the electric vehicles. According to an article by Car and Driver magazine, the next 5 years in the industry will see a tremendous boom in the production and development of these vehicles. The proof lies within the prototypes that car makers are putting together. It is estimated by 2022, Audi, BMW, and Cadillac will release two new electric vehicles, along with companies such as Chevrolet, Dodge, and Ford also contributing to the shift with current and future plans for electric cars. A future that these three companies, being Chevrolet, Dodge, and Ford, have also began to explore is by offering the option of their trucks being bought as a fully electric vehicle. And these trucks are expected to be released by 2022 and 2023. And the biggest manufacturer out of them all, having the most prototypes, is Mercedes-Benz, with 7 current electric vehicles in prototype/development stage process. While a lot of these prototypes may never see the light of day, all in all, 57 electric vehicles are currently in the prototype stage for these companies. The future definitely looks strong with these ones. Now, you may be asking, how do these electric vehicles work? If they're going to be the future, I should understand how they work. Now, without getting into the mumbo jumbo of how electricity works with AC currents and DC currents and all that, the basic function of these electric cars is by plugging them into a charge point that you can find in your house, or provided by a dealership. And these charge points take the electricity from the grid and they store the electricity in these rechargeable batteries that then power the electric motor in the car, which then turns the wheels and all other functions needed by the car during its use. Now, there are three types of electric vehicles in the market right now. The first one being a plug-in electric, and this means that the car runs purely on electricity and gets all its power on a battery from a plugged-in outlet. Now, the second type of car is a plugged-in hybrid, and these cars mainly run on electricity, but also have a traditional fuel engine. So you can use petrol or diesel if they run out of the battery charge. And the third one being the hybrid electric. And these run mainly on fuel like petrol or diesel, but also have an electric battery as well too. And this battery isn't recharged by plugging it into a wall. It's actually recharged through regenerative braking by the car. Now, these cars cannot be plugged into an electricity source, as I kind of said, and they rely mainly on petrol or diesel for the energy source. Now, to address the big question mark surrounding the electric vehicle industry, which is their impact on climate change. Now, a study from the Massachusetts Institute of Technologies found that battery and fuel production, so the manufacturing process for these electric vehicles, actually generates higher emissions than the manufacturing process of a typical petrol automobile. Now, this is because electric vehicles rely on rechargeable lithium ion batteries. And the process of making these batteries includes mining raw materials like cobalt and lithium. And then these manufacturing companies are having to bring these materials to their gigafactories to then be produced. So in all aspects of the supply chain for these electric vehicles can be very energy intensive. And one of the biggest sources of carbon emissions from electric vehicles today is this manufacturing process. Now, as quoted from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, producing electric vehicles leads to significantly more emissions than producing petrol cars. Depending on the country of production, it's between 30% to 40% extra in production emissions, which is mostly from the battery production. So in short, the total emissions per mile for battery-powered cars is still lower and comparable to internal combustion engines. And this is with the current technology that we have. If businesses can create a more efficient supply chain for the production of these cars, it will be the main contributor to reducing the emissions created by the automobile industry, which will then eventually lead them to the goal of a zero emission industry.
In conclusion, we definitely feel that the future belongs to environmentally friendly, sustainable hybrid electric vehicles. EVs are meant to play a central role in the ambitious objective of zero emissions target by 2050. This has been given the go-ahead by a number of governments. Um, just this year, a huge number of summits have taken place about the environment and the climate change and where we're headed. So electric cars are definitely touted to play a central role in all that, and the industry is also clearly gearing up for it. With Tesla Motors and many other major car companies going electric, this is an ever-evolving industry. It's also an industry that we can invest in with loads of potential for further growth and opportunities. The numbers suggest and the trend suggests, and with how many car companies are going electric and ramping up their electric car productions, we can definitely say and see that the EVs are meant to play a central and important role in the zero emissions target by the year 2050.